Leadership's a term that's bandied about, just like culture, training. Uh, all of these words mean so many different things to so many different people. Then you don't know if you're a good leader or a bad leader. The only thing sometimes you have are the people standing in front of you that you're learning from. Well, what happens if you're learning from a very bad manager and you're not 100% sure, or you're not getting that feedback in the organization where you're working to help you progress? Well, today I'm joined by Scott Simons. He is a managing partner and a general manager in a large automotive dealership group. And he talks about what his journey has been as a leader. Currently, he considers himself a really good leader, but he's constantly challenging himself and surrounding himself with people to get better. But more importantly, what he wants to share is that manager he used to be, how bad he was, how he only focused on himself, not his team. And as he said, I found myself winning at business, but losing at everything else. So it's a fascinating conversation about his evolution. It's designed to help you, put you in a position, put you on a path to realize where you may be deficient, but more importantly, where you need to head to, how to surround yourself with the right people to make you the best leader that you can be. So let's dive into today's conversation on You're in Charge, Conversations That Spark Change with Scott Simons. All right, Scott. So I've known you now for a few years, and one of the things that I admire about you is this idea of you talk about leadership and exemplify leadership, but it doesn't seem like it's something you take for granted. It's something you work at all the time. So for folks in the audience who are either trying to become better leaders themselves, is that true? Is this something that you consciously work at every day? And what are the tactical things that you do to push yourself further?
Yeah, well, Glenn, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I've known you and your brother, and I just admire and respect a lot of people that are associated with the auto industry that's been doing it for a while, successfully. So I know we've communicated on different applications and et cetera, but I've never sat down and had a conversation with you. So I'm pretty excited about this opportunity. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do for the auto industry that we love so very much. So leadership, we have coaches here at CMA. I work for Carter Myers Automotive Group. So Liza Borges is the CEO. We've been around since 1924. Liza has Glenn Lundy, Danelle Delgado, that actually works with our whole company, but works with our leadership team on developing us as leaders. I've worked with some good leaders, and I've worked with some not so good leaders. And so I tried to learn from the really good leaders what they did, and try to also learn from some of the bad leaders that I've had on what not to do.
Right.
I truly believe by following Ed Milet, which is in the Arate Syndicate, which is one of the multiple groups I'm in, that we are on a journey of trying to become the best version of us possible. And that's a never-ending journey for people that truly want to try to be the best versions of themselves. So I'm probably never going to get to the person I'm striving to be, which is a little unnerving, knowing that it's an infinite game, that I'm never going to get there. But I always try to improve, and I'm not perfect. I make mistakes quite often, but I'm willing to admit to them and say, look, I didn't see it. I also, with the team that I have, they have the ability to speak up. A lot of times I ask them, I have about 175 associates, run 5 car dealerships. Take me in the situation, what would you do?
Right.
And I listen. I listen to what they would do to fix the problem or come up with a solution to the problem. So I think, being a good leader, you have to be a good listener, and you always have to see what you could do in order to improve. And trust me, I've made plenty of mistakes. I could write a book on the mistakes I've made.
Well, I interviewed someone maybe about a week ago, and I think it was Jason Rice from Lot Pop, who said it's only a failure if you didn't learn from it, right? So I like that. There's a lot in there that you just spoke about that I really want to break down a little bit. Number one is, you're working for an organization that believes in challenging you. So they're investing resources to bring in people of quality to help you become a leader. For those individuals who may be working in an organization that doesn't do this, what are some of the things that they could do on their own to challenge themselves or learn how to become better leaders?
Yeah, they can study the great leaders. It doesn't matter what occupation they're in. Leadership is leadership.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the leadership I study is military. And don't be careful and don't allow the culture of the company they're at change who they are. I mean, I've worked for a group that leadership believed in pitting people against each other.
Right.
They believed in, oh, what's so-and-so doing? I know they're not doing anything. And almost like a tattletale, like
Right.
who's working, who's not working. And the person would literally call around the organization to get everybody to tat on each other and wanted chaos, because when he had chaos, everybody needed him. And when it wasn't chaos, he would create issues. And I said, man, this is just a terrible way, And then I went to a company that was the exact opposite. And I fell victim a little bit of getting into that, negative culture, because when the leader's that way,
right,
they're saying, hey, Scott, what's Glenn doing? I know he's not doing anything. What's he doing? Sitting in his office, acting like he's busy, walking around with papers, acting like he's busy. I'm like, no, Glenn's working.
Right.
Oh, well, if you're not going to feed into my negativity, I'm just going to go on and call the next person. Then they would call and say, Glenn, what's Scott doing? Sitting there acting like he's busy, and I fell victim to it for a little while. And I said, wait a minute, this is not how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Where I'm working at now with Liza, it's totally opposite. I mean, we're here to help each other. We communicate. We have currently 15 stores in the state of Virginia, and we're adding more. We got an announcement that's going to be coming up soon where we've added to our company. And it's totally different. I mean, we go to meetings and say, okay, what's working here? How can you help each other? What's best practices? But if you don't have a company that, to answer your question directly, if you don't have a company that will put that information or help you, then you've got to do it on your own. And there's a lot of content you can get for free. You could go watch a lot on YouTube and emulate some of the people that are great leaders, no matter what occupation they're in. So I would just say reading books is a good way about leadership. Just always trying to be a student of what I call the game. I've been in the auto industry 25 years. I thoroughly enjoy what I do. The day that I don't enjoy coming to work is when I'm going to do something else. Thank goodness that hasn't happened.
Right.
I have good days and bad days like everybody else, but I do thoroughly enjoy what I do because I'm making a difference, not only in the 175 people that work here, but in the community. Our whole thing here at CMA is moving lives forward. When my life and everybody else's life quits moving forward is when it'll be time for me to go do something else. And thank goodness for 25 years that hasn't happened.
Well, that's the interesting thing or fun thing about automotive. I came from hospitality, and so I find them very similar because you have structure, but every day is a little different. Just it could be busy, it could be slow, but it is always entertaining. It always keeps you on your toes. And one thing you said, I think, for those people who might be listening, who said, well, I'm not lucky enough to work in an organization like Scott, where the leaders feel, that they want to help you grow. Take that exercise that Scott did, and you could really do it. Just take a piece of paper and split it down the middle and say, let me think all the people I've worked for that I liked working for, and what did they do? Right? What did they do to make me feel that way? And then on the other side, say, well, let's document all the things that someone did that I didn't like and make sure I'm not doing that. And if you're in a situation where there is negativity, you're right. You have basically two choices. Well, three. You could fall into it, you could ignore it, or you could move on and find a different culture for that. So let me ask you, there was another thing that you said, poor leaders, and making sure that if you're doing this, to put a stop to it, is that idea of causing chaos so that someone needs you. There are managers that think that if I train Scott and he doesn't need me, and he can do his job on his own, well, somewhere along the line, I'm going to get fired. Let me ask you, did you ever fall into that? Let me make sure everybody comes to me and asks me questions on what to do so that I feel needed, or the company, knows that, boy, if Scott leaves, we fail?
I did. I made that mistake. It's very much short-term thinking. It's very much an insecurity. I mean, I've been a general manager since I was late 20s and I'm 48.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand. I was focused on what was important to me. And that's a big mistake. And I also managed people as though they were me. So I would say, well, I don't understand why Glenn doesn't want to work his day off and hit this objective. I don't understand why Glenn won't make the phone calls. I don't understand why Brian won't do this or well, one, I had to learn what's important to them may not be important to me. Now we've got to all fit within this moving lives forward.
Right.
We want to move the employees' lives forward, the community, our customers. And I was more worried about my goal, achieving my goal. And when I worked for that other dealership I was telling you about, man, it turned me into a monster. I mean, you wouldn't even recognize that person. And thank goodness they're no longer here. But I was 265 pounds, terrible health, drank every day because I was just miserable. I let that culture just change who I was. I only cared about myself. I was winning in business, but I was losing as a husband, as a father, as a friend. I was just not a good person. And it took me going to the hospital. I was having either a heart attack or stroke. They're still not sure. And I was on the showroom floor and I basically turned red and like blood red. And they said, "Hey, you don't look good. We're going to take you to the hospital." I said, "No, you're not going to take me anywhere." They ran me to the hospital off the showroom floor. One, I wouldn't let them call an ambulance. I said, "I'm going to drive myself." They said, "Well, let's drive you." And when I got to the hospital, they said, "Sir, you're either having a heart attack, more than likely a stroke. You need to calm down." And I'm sitting there looking at them like, I'm fine. Like, why are y'all freaking out for? So they rolled me back. And next thing I know, they've got me on a gurney and they're giving me nitroglycerin. And I'm like, y'all are all freaking out. I'm fine. Like, y'all need to let me out of here. Let me go back to work. And at that point, I was on the highest blood pressure medicine, only cared about myself, made those mistakes you talked about. I was that guy. I'm not going to train anybody, anything, because they may take my job.
Right.
You're never, if you care about yourself more than others, and if you have that limited mindset, you're never going to grow and the people around you are going to resent you. Now I train I have two general managers, one general manager that's in training and the other two that we're going to get that way. Well, a lot of people would say, well, if you have 5 GMs, do they need you? Well, I'm the managing partner and I'm over top of those. I'm almost like we don't like to use platform manager, but anyway. But no, I hope to pour into them and maybe they'll either buy into our stores that we have here, like I was able to, or they can go get their own store within Carter Myers Automotive Group.
Right.
So, but no, I was that person you're describing. That was me. And it comes with a little bit of maturity. And, when you want other people to win, they want you to win also. When you're only wanting to win, people will do what you ask them to do, but there's going to be resentment towards you. But that is a trap. And I think it's an old school way of thinking too, right? I think old school was don't train anybody how to do anything and they need you. You're not going to grow and your team's not going to grow around you. And you're going to have a job for the rest of your life, which a lot of people like to develop people and have more of a life than an actual job. So yeah, I made that mistake. That was me.
So tell me about that then. Let's roll that back a little bit, because again, I don't want to take it for granted and the fact that you're sharing this. So, here you were that attitude of I'm the boss, do it as I say. If you're not going to do it as I say, get out of here, and just one-way management, which is just you barking, telling. But your weight also was high. You were on medication. You weren't healthy. You weren't happy. But what I liked that you said, and this is something that I want to make sure that people caught, you said you were happy or successful. You were winning. I think that was the word. Yeah, right. You were winning at business, but losing everywhere else. But if that is your only goal or check mark of success, look, I'm winning at business, but you're overweight, relationship at home's not great, don't have a lot of friends, and you're just going, but look, I'm winning, look at my numbers. How did the heart attack or the stroke, did it automatically wake you up, or was there some I'm still strong, I can figure this out? What was the change for you where now you're not that weight, you're always working out, you're much healthier. What was the pivot point?
Yeah, well, for sure. People typically change when they either have to, say I would have lost my job and, would have had to find a job. And then I realized that the problem wasn't anybody else. It was me.
Right.
That wasn't going to happen because we were being successful. I think the heart attack or that was the sign. It was like, hey, if you don't make changes, you're going to die. I mean, my doctor said I was on the highest blood pressure medication possible. And I think when I went to the hospital that day, my blood pressure was like 250 over.
Holy.
I mean, 160. It was like, take your numbers. And I was double the numbers or more. And my wife, which I've known, or we dated or been married since I was 17. I'm 48. She was 15. So she's 45. She said to me, hey, you're doing really well financially, but if you don't make changes, you're going to die. And she had to really punch me to get me to wake up because she had to do something. And she didn't want to leave me, which she probably should have. She didn't want to leave me because she said it would just put me in a bigger tailspin. So what she decided to do was she said, hey, if you don't make changes, you've done well financially, but don't you think about this? You're not going to be around to walk that daughter of yours, which now my daughter's a freshman in college at James Madison. She said, there's going to be another man's going to walk your daughter down that aisle. And she looked at me and she said, that'll be a real shame because you've won in business. You've made good money. You've saved your money. You've always been smart with money, but you're not going to be there to see. And there more than likely to be another man walking with that daughter down the aisle. And she even jabbed me. She said, and he'll be younger too. That's what she said. So I was like, and you got to understand, my wife's not like that. I mean, she's very quiet, she's that polar opposite.
But then that's why it was effective, because if she doesn't say that, and then all of a sudden she just gives you that look in the eye and say, okay, this is, we're not playing games anymore. This is serious.
Yeah.
So then was it then? So again, this is where I like, and I think it helps the listeners. So now all of a sudden you get to that point, your wife punches you in the head and you wake up and you say, okay, I have to take charge of my health. I have to take charge of figuring this out, which means planning. But how did you then map that out where you committed? I mean, obviously you were very successful, so hard work wasn't the problem. It was just rechanneling your focus into something else. So once you took charge of this, how did you plan it out to become healthier?
Well, I had to believe it or not, I smoked cigarettes, which is ignorant as hell. So I had to stop that, which was dumb. What you do in darkness and you're ashamed of, you shouldn't be doing. So anything you're doing, like when you're hiding behind a trash dumpster smoking a cigarette, that's a sign you probably shouldn't be out there.
Right.
And I was so out there and so miserable in the organization and allowed myself get to a point where I would literally buy a 40 ounce. I lived 10 minutes from my house. I would drink it on the way home. And that's 10 minutes in the car. So I know it. So I'd get home. I always say, I had work today. I don't want to talk about it because I'd have to go back and relive that day.
Right.
What do you mean? I just don't want to talk about it. Did I smell alcohol in your breath? Did you go out to a bar or something? Nope. Well, where did you drink it? On the way home. And I really don't want to talk about it. So I just sit and just not really say anything. Right. So that was pretty much my life. I was winning in business, but losing everywhere else. And I quit, cut back. I still socially drink, but I was the guy that would sit there and be first one at the bar and last one to leave, but that stopped, I didn't completely quit drinking. I like going to a brewery every now and then. I don't drink wine. I don't drink liquor. And I cut that back immediately. And I started just to work out. I went and started playing racquetball, which I love, which I had stopped doing. Once I did one workout a day, I started doing 2 workouts a day. I started eating salads. And I lost, like right now, to give you an example, the highest I've been is 265. I weigh about 199 now. Still could lose some weight, but I don't want to get too thin. And I've dropped about 50 pounds there, by eating right. Then I really shifted to starting to ask people what was important to them. Not what was important to Scott or to my goals, but if you work with me, what's your dreams? What's your aspirations? Something I started doing years ago is tell me 3 of your personal goals, 3 of your professional goals. And the reason why I want to know those goals for people that work here, we have all of our associates turn these into us. And even Liza's instituted this in CMA, throughout CMA. I want to know what's important to you. So what's your 3 personal goals, professional goals? And then we give you a career flight plan. Okay, right. This is where you want to be. This is where. Now, some people say, I want to be a top salesperson. I have no desire of being in management. So then you understand that. But say that your goal is to send a daughter to college. So when we sit and talk to you about why it's important for you to attain your goals, it's to attain your financial goals that you've set, or maybe going on that vacation, or maybe buying that boat, which there's nothing wrong with having materialistic goals. There's nothing wrong with wanting a better life. Some people I think frown upon that, but if I find out that you want to buy that boat, hey man, how you doing? Where are you tracking towards your goal? Hey, just think about what that boat's going to feel like. And I may just start describing that boat to you. Sure. I can see this, let's visualize this boat. So I really went from what's important to me to what's important to everybody else. And that's when my career really took off. That's
what great, because what you're doing there is you're helping them achieve their goal, but also when it becomes tough for them, or they're not applying, or they're taking some things for granted, you just saying as a leader, well, it's important to the company. That doesn't work. But if you said, but what about that boat? I thought you wanted the boat. And, it's easy at times to say, I'll never get the boat. But what it sounds like you pivoted to was, let me help you. Yeah. I'm now coaching you, which means having the good days, having the bad days, but I'm going to show you a way to get the boat, or I'm going to show you a way to save money. Because again, what you're now helping them do is not just make the money. Maybe a conversation is, okay, you've been making money. What are you doing with the money in order to save this money to put your daughter through college? Because now you're actually opening up your ability to help them beyond just, here's how you do X, Y, Z at your job.
Yeah, we mentor. So I have a program, where I mentor about 20 of our staff. And I've done various classes where, you got to apply. It's voluntary. We walk into a room, we meet every Friday at noon for an hour. You can eat lunch during the meeting, but we do life. We do budgeting. We do check credit. I do a fun game where everybody writes down their credit score and I don't tell them that I'm asking. And then the next week they go to wherever they go and get a credit report and they bring it in. Then we see how close were you to your actual score. Then we actually read your credit bureau with you. Hey, let's go over this with you.
Right.
We do health challenges. Oh, we did an exercise where who could live the cheapest for a week? So who could spend the least amount of money, not in fixed expenses and variable expenses, for 1 week?
Right.
And then we brought in and shared. And then whoever lived the cheapest got a gift certificate. And what they found out is that they didn't have to spend as much money, like the energy drinks or the cigarettes or whatever the case may be. They were just blowing a lot of money. Through that process, I had an employee that I've shared this story a couple of times that literally was going to take his own life. And because of that mentorship, he did not take his own life.
That's amazing. I think what you're doing there, I do that for some of my employees. There's a few of them. I'm coaching them one-on-one to be a better leader. So they'll listen to some of the online courses I've created, and then I'll say, okay, let's talk. And they'll, every 2 weeks we'll get together and they'll tell me, I had a conversation. Here's how it went. Here's, what do you think? And so it is that investment in them as people, not just, are you doing the job? But what I liked about what you were doing with the, how cheap can you live? It ties into a conversation I just had this weekend. We were visiting some friends, and I have a 16-year-old son, and my friend has a 16-year-old, and he just started working at a supermarket, cashier. And he's just, man, I don't know where my money's going. I don't have my money. And then they sat down and said, let's go through your debit card. Where are you going? All of a sudden it's, well, I'm only buying lunch. Well, buying lunch, why don't you bring lunch? Because it is that, well, I just grabbed coffee at Starbucks, or I just went and got this. And all of a sudden they go, oh, there's $8. Lunch is $12, and multiply that by 5. it doesn't register because all those short things, oh, it's only a couple dollars here, a couple dollars here. It's that momentum of adding it up. And then you decide, do I really need it or not? Or better yet, you're getting their brains to look at it and say, is there another option?
Well, how many
Which
times?
I think is a great thing about leadership.
Yeah. How many times have we seen car dealers go and get their employees in debt? They bring the suit guy by that charges you a couple $1,000s per suit.
Right.
They say, hey, why don't you go buy this car you can't afford? Or why don't you go and buy these things you can't afford? Because your debt at the end of the day owns you. So if I can put, the old school thinking was, some people still think this way, the more debt I can put you in, the more that debt owns you and the harder you've got to work. We teach the exact opposite here. We teach max out your 401k. First of all, if you can't max it out, do 5%, do 2%. Everybody does 2%. Right. It's automatic. Then go to 5%, then go to 10%. I had a gentleman I ate lunch with yesterday on a Sunday. He said, can I come meet with you? Sure. Come on. Went and ate lunch with him. Well, he's got a child on the way. Hey, let's look up, man. Hey, start your 529. Well, I don't even have, the baby's not born yet. No, you can start it. You can start it now. You could just name yourself as a beneficiary. And then once the baby's born, you can go change it and transfer it over. He goes, man, I had no clue. I didn't even know what it was. I said, so when people ask you what you could do for your child, instead of buying a bunch of toys that they're not going to use, because we've all been around those families, just say, hey, if you want, you can give to Johnny or Susie's college fund. Right. He goes, man, I never thought about that. My parents never taught me that. And I said, well, I was lucky enough my parents did. And so we share, I'm so passionate about them saving their money and putting in 401k. I've actually been accused of getting a kickback from the money they put in their 401k. And I said, look, guys and gals, if I could, I'd love to do that because I am passionate about it, but that's not the case. As a matter of fact, if you don't take advantage of our match, you're actually going to save me money. So yes, they said, well, what do you get out of it? Well, your financial freedom in the future. Maybe you'll go and buy dinner with me and say, hey, Scott, I got your dinner and let me go buy you one beer and for what you did for me. And I said, so it's just the right thing to do, right?
Well, it's also helping them with the 401k, educating them on the fact that you will spend whatever money comes to you in your bank account. So if I take, and that was always the genius of the 401ks, is if I took $20 out, you're not going to miss it. You're going to spend what's on your check. So why not say, take this, help me, especially if the organization is matching, that's phenomenal. And so if you get someone in their 20s doing this and putting it away, I remember a gentleman I worked with years ago. We still stay in touch. He said, Glenn, he goes, I always thank you. He goes, I tell my kids, he goes, I tell other people, if it wasn't for having a conversation with Glenn about maximizing 401ks when he didn't know, he says, you're the reason I paid off my house. My kids have this and this. And he goes, it just was, he goes, I had no idea the power of compounding over time. And he says it was one of the best conversations, yet there were other people in that room having that conversation who didn't. And he says, yep, they're still struggling. He goes, he goes, I'm not wealthy. He says, but I'm in a really good position. Yeah,
for sure. It's, I think it's just the right thing to do. But see, that conversation wouldn't have happened with the old Scott, with the Scott that until I learned and grew up, I would have been the guy that would have been putting him in debt.
Right. So, well, that you figure then they have to still work for you. They can't leave. I have you hooked, or, another thing bad managers will do is, well, where are you going to go and make this money, Scott? They start mentally messing with you so that you have to stay there. And as you said, it becomes a bit of indentured servitude where they just start convincing themselves that, well, the only place I can work and I'll put up with Scott screaming and yelling because I'm making money. And now what you were doing is you're actually creating a bunch of Scotts, meaning everybody is thinking this is the way you manage people, and hey, we're winning at business because Scott's winning at business, and now everybody is miserable in their lives. Versus what you're doing now is you're creating people who are committed to working hard, but they have much more available to them because you are allowing yourself to be more available to them to help them. And I think that's a great leader.
Yeah, for sure. You summed it up perfectly. And one thing about here at Carter Myers, we take 10% of the net profit yearly and share it with our employees. So we have 700 employees. And with these other acquisitions, I think we're going to be right below 1,000. but we take 10% of the company's net profit. It's called employee stock option plan. We share that with them. Our stock has went up 11.8% a year on average. So that means their money will double every 6-7 years. And the average employee gets about $4,500 worth of stock on average. Of course, it's based on how much you gross. So they actually want us to be profitable, and we share those numbers with our team. And, that's part of the Moving Lives Forward. And, our owners just do more is profit sharing, which I know a lot of car dealerships, it's their right. They don't do. I'm not saying they're bad or good or bad, but we decided to do it years ago, and it's paid really big dividends for us. And our biggest stockholders, our company, are not general managers. It's technicians, it's salespeople. It's not like the top 15 you would think were GMs or part owners. They're not, because also the amount of stock you get is capped at a certain amount. So a person that's at the top isn't going to get more stock. It's capped, I think, at 120 a year. So it's been really good for us. And I think that was a visionary by Carter Myers when he decided to do that years ago.
No, I think that's great. I think you have that ability then for everyone to feel part of the success versus, well, if I work harder, the only people who are going to win are the owners, versus no, we all get something out of this, so that now the person who's on the front lines is inspired. It does feel that it matters if a customer walks into in this case, the dealership, and I walk over and say, can I help you? Or I see someone walking down the hall and I say, good morning. Hi, how are you? Can I help you? Are you being helped? Versus just walking by because, well, that's not my job. And I think that really allows everybody in a great way to feel part of it from top to bottom. And I think it goes back to something you said. And again, I want the listeners to really hone in on this, is that it seems like you've evolved into the leader that says, my job is not more important than anyone else's. We all have to do our job for the machine to keep all lives moving forward, as you're saying. Like, you have your job, I have my job. It's not more important. It's just, I just do different things. Is that would that be a good assessment?
Yeah, for sure. We get to know each other on a personal level. Doing the mentorship, there's no charge to that. And again, when I found out what was important to others, and fit it within the culture of the company, and, I got in the right environment too.
Right.
There's a lot of really good people that are in some negative environments. So I was very fortunate to go to Carter Myers. I'll tell you that it's a wonderful organization. But if you're in that organization, that is what I've described earlier. Don't make the mistake I made and let it change who you are or influence. You could still be a positive person, even on a quote unquote bad team. You could still show up and try to improve and not use that as excuse like I did. I mean, I just used it as an excuse, and I didn't really care about, to be honest. I mean, I lost some good people managing them as though they were me and what was important to me. And you learn that. I mean, it takes time, but once I make a mistake, I'll gladly admit, hey, I make them quite often.
Right.
But I make it from from the right heart, or from,
well, you're making them, as you say, you're moving forward. I always say, fall forward. If you're going to make a mistake, fall forward, make it because you're trying to do the right thing or trying to do something versus falling backwards. So let me just pivot to another now. So now we're at, you as a leader, and it seems like you're doing a really good job with the people below you, right? Me, my team, the associates, and do there. I think every good leader upwards needs to surround that. So for you, and you're doing a lot of different things. I mean, you're Breakfast with Champions on Clubhouse. You're in these organizations. Talk about that. What do you do in order to fuel yourself, to challenge yourself? How do you surround yourself with people that are going to push you forward? Almost the thought of, well, now I'm on their team and they're helping me pull me forward. How did you do that, and who are they? Yeah.
So somebody that I followed, and he's a mentor of mine, I invest with him, is Grant Cardone. I mean, he's had an influence in my life. He's, can be a polarizing figure, but, he taught me about money, saving money, investing money. Some of the groups that I'm in, I spend about 100,000 a year in coaches or development on me personally. And the reason why I do that is I want to learn and I want to stretch my mind. I easily, when back in 2010, realized a dream of mine by buying into my first car dealership. That was a dream of mine. I mean, to be a part owner of a car dealership. That's all I ever wanted. And when I got in there, I said, well, I've got two ways to go here. I can either really catapult it where some people may say, hey, I've arrived.
Right.
You know, hey, I'm part owner now. And I said, no. I've worked so hard to get to where I'm at. And I remember a meeting in the showroom. Whenever we acquire a store, which I've been through the acquisition of 5 of them, or 6 actually, we keep everybody and give them an opportunity. We don't just come in and just fire everybody.
Right.
That's not what our culture is. So when we did, I remember standing in the showroom here at it was Rural Honda, and CMA and I went in together and purchased Rural Honda. And I said, hey, our goal is to own every dealership in this town. Now, we had not sold one car. And all the people in the showroom look at me like, this dude's nuts. We hadn't even sold a car yet. And he's in here saying that our goal is to own every single one of them in town. And since then, took over VW, Honda, Nissan, bought those, got Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram as an open point and looking to grow because I didn't want to rest on my laurels. And then when you get around the Ed Milet's, the Andy Frisellas, the Danelle Delgados, a lot of people that I'm in Ryan Stewman's group, Apex. So I'm in Arete Syndicate, Apex, and the Lions Den. And all of those are to get around people that stretch my mind and don't allow me to get comfortable.
Right.
And none of those people are in the auto industry. I am really fortunate. I became the go-to guy in these groups to buy cars from, and especially with this chip shortage. I'm selling a bunch of, I had messages yesterday. And my wife kind of looked at me and goes, you're sure communicating a lot. You okay? What's going on? Is something wrong at work? And I said, no. I said, I'm selling a pink Jeep to a lady in some other, Jessica in another state. I was working with the guy buying a GMC Denali truck in Texas. I was working like 3 or 4 deals yesterday on a Sunday through text message because now they've recognized me as a person that could help them acquire vehicles, especially with this chip shortage. But no, I joined those groups specifically not to allow myself to get comfortable. And, investing that amount of money in your development, you want a return on your investment. So when I go to these meetings and I'm in these groups, it really pushes me out of my comfort zone. Says I may be a bigger fish in this smaller pond, but how are you out in the sea, or how are you in this bigger lake? And what you find is, man, I got a long way to go. And Ed Milet's taught me a lot, about being resembling the person that God envisioned you to be. Mm-hmm. I'm a Christian. I would rather act like a Christian than profess to be a Christian. So you won't hear me sharing, a bunch of Bible verses or putting my views on somebody else. I would rather go and act like a good person or have good karma. Yes. But I'm most definitely a Christian, So yeah, I joined those groups in order to push my mind, in order to make me level up. Whenever I invest in something, I want to 10x my investment. So you got to imagine if I'm investing $100,000 a year, I'm expecting
you want $1 million back now. But what I love about that is the fact that it's not in the automotive. I think there are a lot of people that default surrounding themselves with, even if they're successful, right? Let's say they're successful at what they do, but you're just within that same industry. I'm not sure you get the bang for your buck because you're just focused on what we do in this industry versus someone like an Ed Milet from saying, well, here's how I built my business. Here's what I do. And it's completely outside of it. So now you're looking at it and say, well, what could I take from him or that industry and apply it to my life or apply it to my business internally? And I think we have a tendency to only focus on what that dealer down the street's doing versus what could I learn from that steakhouse in terms of great customer service that I love going to? What do they do that maybe I could do in my dealership? And I love that idea of challenging your mind with people that are not of your same industry or common group?
See, I communicate and follow the Brian Benstocks, the Alex Flores's, the Josh Cummings. I go visit other people's stores. We're in 20 groups.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the make meetings. If somebody's doing something successful, I'm going to vet them, but that's only going to take you so far. We need to learn from the Amazons and, the Apples and, these other people. And I've learned from them. I mean, one thing that we're doing, which I know some dealerships don't, we track relationship sales versus transactional sales. And we had a goal of where our number used to be. And our number was, when we first started tracking this, in about the 20s. Now we're up to almost, we're in the mid 40s. And what the difference is did the dealership generate the lead, either the manufacturer, the dealership, or walk in, or did the individual sales rep generate the lead? And then our goal is to get their percentages up higher. So we help them brand themselves, which, back in the day, dealerships didn't want you to be bigger than the dealer.
Not at all.
I mean, so now we give them a playbook. Well, this playbook we give them, I learned from Ryan Stewman in the Apex group, had nothing to do with the auto industry. He has a system called Build Your Machine, where you're building your machine, your online presence on social media. So like, I'll give you an example. We ask our sales reps when they come in, check in with either a video. Facebook Live is perfect. If not, record a video or a picture in front of the dealership. Hey, this is Scott Simons. I'm here at the CMA's Valley dealerships today. I'm going to check in on Facebook too. I'm also going to share it on Instagram. And I'm going to say, I'm here to assist you with any of your automotive needs. Look, I know it's crazy times right now with these chips, but I'm here to serve you. My cell phone number is here. Text me, call me, DM me. Any questions that have anything to do with anything automotive, contact me. Then we have them go through their tasks in our CRM, right? The highest funnel. Then we have them send out encouraging messages, which we learned from Glenn Lundy, to people both in their phone. We have so many contacts a day, and in their Facebook. Hey, send them a message. Hey, Glenn, it's been a while since I talked to you. How is your daughter, your son, whoever the case may be? How's your family doing? Hey, anything I could do for you? I'm here to serve. Keep me in mind. Don't, just touch. And by doing that, we help train. If we sell you a vehicle, we're going to friend you on Facebook. We're going to put a picture of you and I. We're going to get authorization with your comment on it. And then we're going to tag you in the post. That way, every year that post comes up as a memory. And then you can, one, it goes to everybody's Facebook feed. Two, it shows you're selling cars. Oh, by the way, if you've got a trade, I'm going to take a picture of your trade in a separate post. Hey, Glenn just traded in this pre-owned Honda Odyssey. He took very good care of it. He's very meticulous. It hasn't went through the shop yet, but if you're interested, let me know. And if you could convince the customer to do a video with you, yeah, it's a great vehicle. I just wanted to upgrade to the new Odyssey. So we're going to post your trade in. Then what we do in the afternoon, we go and find 5 of our most recent trades, and we have each showroom share those. And then we ask the sales rep to share the other sales reps trade. So that when our sales reps, we have 50, post these, it's going out all over their social media.
Sure. That's really that's guerrilla marketing at its best. You're just really doing a little legwork and leveraging your staff to push it out into their networks.
It costs right now. Our message to them is manufacturers aren't advertising right now. We're selling as many as we get in. We're not advertising right now. So if you're going to sell something, you're going to need to advertise this, because if you just let it go through the shop, it's going to go online and it's going to be sold within a day or two anyway.
Right.
But it's going to go to somebody else. So we showed them that a referral closes at twice the percentage, and actually the gross margin is higher. It's just some people that care about you, they actually say, I want to make sure this is fair to you because I know you're going to take care of me.
Right.
That's when you've done a good job building that rapport with them. So that's just some of the things that we pivoted during this. But these are things I didn't learn from here. Like Andy Frisella through First Form, he's built a $500 million company. Every order you order through him, the person that puts it in your order gives you a handwritten note. Hey, Glenn, thank you for ordering this protein. I really hope that it works for you. If you have any questions, call me. Handwrites it, Scott. Liza Borsius, we have 700 employees. She handwrites every single one of them a thank you letter, personalized thank you letter to them on their anniversary. So if I've been here 11 years, I've got 11 cards from her.
Right.
And she does it for every single employee. Andy does handwritten messages on every order, no matter whether you order from her or not. Well, success leaves clues. This is something I learned outside of the auto industry.
Right.
So these are best practices that I've learned from other people that are thinking outside the box. And I still learn from the Brian Benstocks and
sure.
like
But that's what I love is that you're doing both. You're finding the best in your industry who are maximizing it or trying different things. But what I also like is just because it works for, let's say, Brian Benstock at his store, it may not work for you, but at least it's getting you to think, let me see if it fits. Now, the mistake is a lot of times people will go, well, Brian's doing it, I'll do it. And sometimes there's a disconnect. But I love that you're doing both. You're looking outside, or you're saying this experience resonated with me. If it resonates with me, it's probably going to resonate with my customers. And then you put it through that filter to say, well, would it work in my store? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But you're always open to looking and testing or trying, or at least questioning, how can we ultimately make it better for our customers and our employees day in, day out to help grow our company?
Perfect example. Exactly what you just got through stating. Brian Benstock is in New York. I'm in the western part of Virginia, not West Virginia, western part of Virginia, very rural area. Brian and his staff dress to the nines. They all wear suits and they look fantastic. I mean, his team is a good looking professional team.
Yes.
We won the President's Award here. We wear polos, name tag, which I don't have mine on right now, which I've got name tag, and our shirts. We have to have nicely pressed, you have to, the basics, make sure you have breath mints, brush your teeth, blah, 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 deodorant. Your pants are pressed, your shoes are, you got on nice looking shoes, but we don't wear ties. We don't wear suits. Never have. We won the President's Award 10 years in a row here. We're one of the only stores to win it 10 years consecutive from year one. Now, there's people that won it 15 years consecutive, but they didn't win it the first year straight through. And we're on pace to win it again this year, which make 11 years, which we're very proud of. We won the President's Award. The Honda people showed up. We had on suits. Customers were coming in the showroom. We're decked out, right? Because Honda's here. They're like, lady came in, goes, did someone die? We're like, why? Because
you're in suits.
Y'all are in suits. We never see y'all in suits. Like, did somebody? No, we won an award. Oh, okay. And another customer came in, like, what's going on in here right now? So that just shows you our demographics. Like a suit, a real expensive press suit would intimidate a lot of people in our area. Right. So I'm not going to go and wear suits because Brian Benstock wears suits, which is exactly what you talked about. Nor would Brian dress the way we do. That's not his.
You have to know your market or the image of where you are and what's going to work for your audience. I mean, that's just basic marketing. But what I love is that you put it through that decision filter of saying, just because it works for him. Now, what could I take? Well, it's consistency. They're all dressed the same. They're all very sharp and clean cut, and meaning that they're, well, how can we do that here? Well, if we're wearing polos, they have to be pressed. If you're wearing pants, make sure they're pressed. Or we have a similar color scheme. And, so you can find similarities in that of the approach without saying I have to wear suits, right. But you go through yours and say, yeah, we want to make sure that we look this way. And how does that fit our culture? So I really love that. But I think the bigger thing for the listeners is ask questions of people who are outside of your industry, or when you never forget you're a consumer yourself. So what do you like when you interact with other businesses? What do they do that you like? What do they do that you don't like? Goes back to that first exercise you were talking about with the manager. What do they do that I like? What do they do that I don't like? Don't do that. So same thing. If there's something that you don't like in an experience that you went to a retail store or a restaurant, you should be coming back and saying, are we doing that? Are we potentially doing that without realizing it? And then adjusting and tweaking along the way. So anyway, I could sit here and chat with you all the time. This has just been phenomenal. So as we sort of wrap up here, we do something at the end of every show where we just ask random questions, nothing for you to think too hard about, but
that's it.
So first thing that pops into your head, 5 or 6 questions, and then we'll jump off here and we'll wrap up. Okay. So number one, now, of course, you say you've been watching your weight and, healthier eating and thing, but what's the one thing? It doesn't matter. What's your one cheat meal? What's the thing that you go, no, I'm still going to eat that?
Yeah, it's actually, it's vanilla and orange sherbet ice cream.
Like the creamsicle thing?
Yeah. But I get it in the tub. And let me tell you something. I would eat ice cream for every meal of the day if I could. Like I literally could eat ice cream all day long. Now we'll go, chocolate, strawberry swirl, but I could literally eat ice cream all 3 meals of the day.
Yeah, so my friend is very similar. He would very, very similar. Yeah. Okay. So next question. Not like 9th grade, early high school, Scott. Mm-hmm. Similarity between that young man and the person you are right now. What's one thing that you've held on to throughout all of your life on that?
Yeah. I was always a leader, but I was probably leading in the wrong direction. Where I was from, McDowell County, West Virginia, is one of the poorest counties in the United States. I was a lower to middle class in that area. But I learned some really good things. Your word means something. Handshake means something. But I would say being a good leader could be also dangerous because you could lead people down the wrong road. And there was a time there, my 9th to 12th grade, I got in quite a bit of fights. Yeah, I got a lot of trouble to say the least. My parents worked a lot, and my dad worked 5 jobs, and he never made more than $32,000 a year at one job, so he had to work multiple. And their theory was, we raised you the right way. Go out there, and if you get in trouble, don't call us. But you need to kind of go out there and experience life a little bit, because they were just too busy. They were working all the time.
Right, but maybe that also has allowed you now, because that has stayed with you, because you're experiencing life. You're willing to go out and talk to the Ed Millett's and all the rest, and you're going, okay. So there is that I have to do it myself mentality. There's a lot of people that don't have that for whatever reason.
Yeah, I can talk to anybody.
Yeah. Okay, a movie that when you run across it on TV, you have to stop and watch.
Yeah, the Rocky movies. I can't remember which one it is. I don't really watch news at all. Right. I don't really watch movies at all. I just think a lot of people, they spend a lot of time in fantasy and not enough time in reality.
That's great.
And I want to focus on my life. Like, I don't get excited when a new movie comes out because I just know it's not real,
Right.
So I would say I'd take you back to the Rocky movies. I think when Rocky was, Goggins talks about it, when Apollo Creed, knocked him down and they all told him to stay down and he got back up. That's the person I want to be. I've been knocked down.
Yeah.
And, it could happen to me. I could make a boneheaded decision, and, we all make mistakes. But I just never quit. Like, I won't, even when I'm struggling, people know that I'm just not going to quit. Just not going to.
Love that. Okay. I got 2 more for you. One is, what are you, either you're reading or listening to that's inspiring you right now that you would recommend to the audience?
Yeah. Every now and then, if I need to get motivation, I'll go back and listen to the Audible on Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins.
Right.
I just love that. I love that book. I mean, when I'm struggling and I don't want to do that burpee or that push up or that sit up, or I don't feel like it, I'll play him. And when he's yelling at me in my ear, and I know the what he went through, what I go through when I don't feel like doing something is nowhere to what that man put himself through. Right. So if you haven't listened to that book, the language, or read the book, Can't Hurt Me, is unbelievable. It really, really made some changes in my life. I watch a lot of YouTube stuff. Like, I'll Google Grant Cardone, I'll Google the Ed Millett's, the Andy Frisellas. Of course, I know them personally. And I'm just, intrigued by, hearing stories from people, about the people, kind of what they're doing now. So I spend time on YouTube, but it's reality. It's not It's not.
No. I totally understand what you're saying. And I like that too. I like listening to people. That's why I've been lucky to sit here and talk to different people and get more people and trying to get, more well-known or just other people that are interesting. This is not just about automotive. I've talked to people. I didn't want it to be just automotive. I wanted to talk to different people because of that. It's great to be able to listen to people's stories and their journeys more than them just standing up there and telling you, here's what you do. That's great, but I want to know how you got there. All right. So last question. We've talked about a lot of things today, and I appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun. If there was one thing out of everything we spoke about that you wanted to make sure the audience took away, so if you take one thing out of this whole conversation, this is it, what would it be?
Yeah, I want to be remembered or be known as the person that if you had one phone call to make that wouldn't judge you and would honestly try to help you, if I could, I would want that phone call to come to me. And it does. And I think if everybody could strive to be that person, you're just a better person. And I've had that phone call. I mean, I've got a situation right now that's just heartbreaking. I mentor some children, and I've got a child that's kind of went astray, and he's not technically my child. And his mom gave him up. I had him in military school. I had him working a job, and he's just 15 years old, and he went astray on me. And because I got busy and other things, and I had him going in the right direction, and his mom and the people that were looking out for him kind of just let him go astray. And I got to decide how to help him. And he's gotten into some trouble, and he's gotten kicked out of school, and he's actually in a home. So I'm trying to help him. And part of the solution would be him moving into my house, which, it may be an option. I got to figure out what I could do to help him. But, I want to be known or even remembered as, I had that one phone call, and I called Scott, and he answered. And I can't help everybody, but if I truly can help people, I will. Now, if I help them and they don't help themselves,
right.
And I move on from some people, but I don't wish ill will. There was part of me immature, kind of whenever you move on, the immature me years ago was like, I hope, I see they're struggling. Right. And I try to tell them, or they did wrong to me. Anymore, I live with so much gratitude. I just wish them nothing but the best, but just, move on.
Yeah.
And I just want to surround myself with extremely positive people that lift each other up, knowing that none of us are perfect.
Now, listen, I think that's great. And I think if we all strove to be the person that others would call and think first to call, I think that's a phenomenal mission for all of us to have. So, Scott, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. So where can people find you? Because I'm sure once they connect with you here, they're going to say, man, I want to either follow him or chat with him or listen to him. So where can people connect with you online?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Scott E. Simons. I don't have an assistant or anything that helps me with my social. So if you send me a message, I will respond, but it's at Scott. Middle initial is E for Edward Simons. I'm on Facebook at Scott Simons, but I'm at my friend Max. So I've got to start a business page, which I know I've been saying this for a little while. I got to get it done. Also, I'm on Clubhouse. My email is scottesimons@gmail.com. So yeah, I'm on any of the socials. Of course, I do have people that stop by here at the dealerships and visit. We're located in the western part of Virginia. So if you're in the area, also, I'm involved not only in the car dealerships, but I own about 20 other businesses. So what I learned from Grant Cardone is I manage the car industry, get money from there and invest it out. And that's led to me into, quite a bit of other industries. So, I have people reach out to me with business ideas and et cetera. So feel free to reach out. And if I can help anybody, I'd help them. Obviously, we're shipping cars throughout the United States. We got 15 different dealerships. So if I can serve anybody in any way, any of their automotive needs, I would be honored to do so.
Well, man, that is great. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So folks, if you've gotten this far, and hopefully you'll listen to this multiple times, Scott shared a lot of great ideas with you. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, or if you want to watch Scott and I, hop over to the YouTube channel as well. Don't forget to share it out. There's a lot of people that can use the information that Scott just shared with everyone. And as always, I do appreciate your attention. I know there's a lot of places for you to listen and get information, but the fact that you spent time with Scott and I today means the world to me. As I say at the end of every episode, you're in charge, but now Scott gave you some more information, some more tools to help you become better, both professionally and personally. Thanks again. See you on the next episode. Scott, thanks so much.
Man, thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun, and I admire and respect you a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.